Or maybe we have a washing machine that we don't fill with a washing detergent, but with nutrients that feed the bacteria of our garments. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. So this would mean that you're wearing something that is alive. If we're talking about garments, you're wearing...
Yeah.
In a world of hyperconnectivity, we seem more disconnected than ever from the living world. A world of natural wonder that has its own systems in place and masters the art of coexistence. We, humans, have placed ourselves outside this way of living, but it can teach us the biggest lessons and leave us in awe. What happens when we reconnect to the nature from which we arose, move in sync with it and coexist in a symbiotic way? Will we make other decisions? Will it change the way we perceive ourselves? What and who can teach us if we are willing to listen? We invite you to be open and amazed by today's guests as they offer a glimpse into their art of coexistence. Emma van der Leest is my guest today. She is an award-winning biodesigner, researcher, teacher, and author based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. If you take one glimpse on her website, you'll quickly notice that she does a lot. But she likes to call herself also a connector more than anything. Today I like to talk about her work as a designer, but also about who and what she connects, and maybe the ever so important question, why she does what she does. Hello, Emma. Do you have a busy week as connector this week?
Hi, Daphne. Thank you for the invite to your beautiful podcast. Yes, a busy week, a nice week, varied as always. Yesterday, I built up a new exhibition. One of the projects I have, the Microbial vending machine that you can also see on my website. I'm building up. Today I was at Blue City and tomorrow I'm in Amsterdam. And the rest of the week I also work on my house, which is a renovation project for the past 5 years.
Oh, nice. So that's a long-term project in your personal life going on.
Yeah.
So I also mentioned that you do many things and people can also see on your website, you offer a lot of services. You call them on your website that you offer workshops and lectures, you have exhibits and programs. You do research and consultancy, and then of course there's your own creative work as biodesigner as well. The exhibition that you started yesterday, the vending machine, under which of those pillars would you say that this one falls?
Actually, both under consultancy and also exhibitions. So this exhibition or this work I'm building up at Windclove Probiotics, which is a probiotics producing company based in Amsterdam. And together with them, I'm developing a platform called MAS, Microbes as a Service, where we look into beneficial microbes that are good for both humans, but also for the environment.
Can I just firstly ask, how did you as a biodesigner end up working as a consultant for a probiotics company? What do they do? What are the probiotics that you work on?
Yeah, so Windclove is a family company. It's a B Corp, and I got an invite from the head of R&D communications, who used to be the old director of Microbial, which is the microbe museum in Amsterdam, part of Artis, the zoo. And he started working for Windclove because his background is in biology. And together with Jasper, we're working on a platform that also connects scientific projects or maybe yet undiscovered scientific projects that we can help elevate and propel, also with the help of design.
But they sell, as a company, they sell probiotics. And then this is like an extra service that they offer that they want to do more research.
That's still in development because Windclove is a company that is researching and producing probiotics. So in their facility, in the office where I also work, they have amazing fermentation tanks, they have labs and the offices. And the platform I'm working on with them is a new project that we are developing together. And they were inspired by the project, the Microbial vending machine that I developed. So they said, maybe we can, as a kickoff of the project, we can have your vending machine in our building, which is iconically an Febo snack machine or vending machine that is very well known to Dutch people that usually sell deep fried snacks in train stations. And almost next to the building of Winklow is the Fabo headquarters, so the brand that sells the actual vending machines. So that is ironic. But my vending machine is not selling deep fried snacks, but it's selling 21 products that are entirely made with biotechnology. So I have 4 rows with algae, bacteria, fungi, and enzymes who are technically not an organism. And it shows how biotech can change our lives and produce every product we use on a daily basis.
So if we go back a bit, this vending machine, just to visualize it, I think we're very known for this, that it's a hilarious thing that you can take food out of a wall, because that's basically what you do. There's all these tiny windows in the wall. You put a coin in it and then the windows open all at the same time. Sometimes if you're very smart, then you can try to have several snacks at the same time, but mostly you just open the one snack that you want. So that is the vending machine, just to visualize it. And then the probiotics, can you maybe explain a little bit what probiotics is or are and what they do? Is this something that any one of us can then consume as well? Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, we know probiotics as microbes, basically bacteria, that are good for our intestine system. So many of the food products everyone consumes on a daily basis, like yogurt, contains probiotics. And our belly, our intestines carry 3 kilos of microbes that are, we also call it the second brain. So we need to take care of our belly, and we have to take care of our microbes. And sometimes due to your maybe diets, there is no balance in it. So, and especially if you are suffering from specific diseases. And Winklow is producing probiotics for mostly the medical markets. Yeah, if you become a patient in a hospital and you need extra probiotics to cure from a specific disease, then it's prescribed. The thing I learned from working with Winklow is that probiotics are still a little bit notorious sometimes. So they're not really a medicine. You can buy it through their website, but you can never find it in a drugstore.
I see.
Because that is a large discussion with the Food and Beverage Authority, let's say. But let's not go into that.
Okay.
But I think probiotics we eat also chicory, for example, contains lots of inulin, which is very good for our health, like raw chicory. Yogurts, kombuchas, kefirs. So yeah, it's very good to add it to your diet.
And they asked you to support them with visualizing some of the research that they're doing.
Well, specifically for a new platform they want to start. And for example, what I also learned is there are a lot of researchers who are working on new types of probiotics, not only for the human, but also, for example, for bees. So there is a scientist they're now looking into to collaborate with, who is looking into the microbiome, so actually the composition of microbes in a beehive. Apparently that is a very unique microbiome. And if we learn more how that microbiome works, we can also help the health of bee and bee colonies, which is also good for biodiversity in general.
Yeah. And it's very much known that it's the health of the bees and the extinction of the bees is a very, very big problem for biodiversity in general.
Yeah, and also we are looking into maybe starting a residency program where independent scientists or artists or designers, for example, can work internally with the scientists at Winklow to work on a project about the microbiome, because there are also quite a lot of artists who are working around these topics. And also, especially the relationships we have with our belly or with our microbes, let's say. But that is still in development.
So for this specific project, you already had a concept, which is a vending machine. That is not something that you created especially for them. So maybe you can take us back to when you designed this vending machine. What were you thinking?
What was I thinking? Yeah, so I got nominated for a Dutch actually a Rotterdam-based prize, the Dolf Henkes prize, back in 2019. Dolf Henkes used to be an artist in Rotterdam, and after his death, his family put in the money in a fund, and every year they give a prize to a young Rotterdam-based artist. So I was nominated and asked to develop a new work, if I wished, for this prize. And it was 2019, end of 2019. And what I really felt at that moment is that every time I talk about my work as a designer, working with scientists, working in labs, working with fungi or any other type of microbe, people are sometimes discussed, because if you talk about fungi now, a lot of things in a good way have changed because we know more about fungi, it's more popular. So I felt the urge to create an artwork that, one, lowers the threshold for anyone to learn about microbes and what they are, and also create a storytelling project that speaks to everyone's minds, and not only the people who are interested in the field of biodesign and bioart and science, but also my neighbor from the corner, for example.
Yeah. And is that why you chose a familiar setting like the vending machine? Because a snack, to give it to people as a snack, like to make it very low bar.
I think a vending machine is very low key. So if you have a coin, put it in, and you'll get something out of it. And it's also, like we said, pretty typical Dutch, this type of vending machine. So accessibility, that was also important to me. So accessibility is super important. And I wanted to show the visitors and the people who look and witness the vending machine, is to show them that every product we use on a daily basis can be made with the help of microbes. And especially things that we are very familiar with, like food, building materials, but also cosmetics, for example, energy, all the things we use on a daily basis. We can also create that in a more healthier and sustainable and cleaner way with the help of biotechnology. And that was important to me, to show little objects in this vending machine that you can take out. And also the other point I wanted to address with this vending machine is you make it open to a wider audience to work with super interesting microbes. And also the independent scientists that don't want to connect, or designers that don't want to connect their name, or who don't have access to university, to educate them about this as well.
I think this is a topic that we discuss here often as well, is that the art world or the design world can actually help to translate what is happening in science and to bring it to people in a more accessible way, like you say, and to and also to connect to the emotion, so that people engage with it in a different way, and that it's not just scientific facts. So it sounds like that is something that you're also trying to do.
Yes, and also when I had the first exhibition with the microbial vending machine, it was also designed as a snack bar. So I had a menu with all the microbes that are, so you saw all the products, the microbes, and I also made explanation from every product like you see in the supermarkets. I educated them a little bit more about what superpowers these microbes have. I always feel the urge to educate people also a little bit, or to to make them as enthusiastic as me about one specific type of fungi that is super cool.
You are from origin a product designer, is that correct?
Yes.
How do you then get from designing product to being fascinated about biodesign, biotechnology, working with science? What was your path in that direction specifically?
Yeah, to go back to my childhood, I grew up in a very nice and green area in the center of the Netherlands, at the Veluwe. I always walked a lot with my parents in the forest. We had dogs, so there was always a kind of fascination, and I always liked to be outside. That is sounds a little bit corny, but I think it's also the base, and it is important, I think, or for me, where I grew up. And before I studied in art school, I did a vocational school in interior design.
Okay.
Because I always have a fascination for interiors and objects, and I love beautiful things as well. But I then decided to go to the art academy to study product design, because I was fed up with maquettes, to build maquettes and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I always had a material fascination. And I must say, the time when I went to art school, sustainability and green design or eco design was a fairly new concept. So my whole fascination for the field of biodesign started in a museum in Rotterdam, at the Boijmans van Beuning Museum, where I saw the beautiful jacket from Suzanne Lee, who is a pioneer in biodesign and biofabrication. And eventually I became her intern back in 2014 in London. That changed my whole perception.
And your professional direction with it.
True, yeah. Because we had to pick an object from this specific exhibition in the Boijmans Museum. Also, Iris van Herpen, the fashion designer, graduated that year. So she also had a beautiful dress there that is, of course, entirely bio-inspired.
Yeah.
But then this jacket from Suzanne Lee that is made out of the purest form of cellulose, nanocellulose, spun by bacteria and yeast in a fermentation process.
Very complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the fact that a material is spun by bacteria and yeast in a fermentation process sparked my mind, because I knew fermentation from a beer,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all you know. Yeah.
But the fact that you can grow garments in vats of liquids and you can wear them, and it's an actual material that you can sew and dye as normal textiles, that blew my mind. And I thought, if there is one road I want to, or one direction I want to go into as a designer, then this is the way.
Why do you think it is that we are so uncomfortable or we were uncomfortable with biomaterials, especially to wear them as garments, for example? Why has that not been a more generalized way? Is it because it's made from bacteria? Is there still something that we find that icky, or what is your experience?
Yeah, but if you think about the fact, if we know more about what kind of heavy chemicals our normal or most people garments are made from or made with, that's even more shocking than a microbe. In the past 50 or maybe 100 years, chemistry gave us a lot, like cheap, accessible products amongst fashion. Also, industrialization and scaling of products in general has made us separate from crafts and the knowledge of making or weaving textiles as we did in the past. Also in the Netherlands, we had a flourishing textile industry in Enschede that is entirely gone because we can now produce very cheap in Asia. And what I see now is that luckily it is slowly coming back. So crafts in general, we welcome more and more, especially in these times.
Yeah. And also with more attention for the process. So it might take a bit more patience, but then if it's natural materials, it's a very different way of working, I assume.
Yeah. One of the most frequently asked questions people have, if I talk, for example, about the jacket of Suzanne or any other 100% bio-based or compostable materials, that, I can't wash it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I said, but maybe you wear it 10 times and you bury it in your garden, or there's a special collection point in cities where we can compost our garments and we're growing new ones. Or maybe we have a washing machine that we don't fill with a washing detergent, but with nutrients that feed the bacteria of our garments. I don't know. That's very speculative.
It is. But I like. So this would mean that you're wearing something that is alive. If we're talking about garments, you're wearing.
Yeah. And one of the other great examples is that there are also designers working on pigments or dyes, textile dyes that are made from fungi. Quite a lot of pretty cool colors, from red to yellow to purple. Same with bacteria, by the way. But yes, they fade because the mordants we use for chemical textile dyes are super heavy chemicals. So with natural dyes, the mordants, so that fixates the color on a fabric, that is also pretty complex to develop 100% bio-based. But in my opinion, I buy a white linen or cotton suit that I maybe wear a couple of times, then I want to wash it, so the color fades, and maybe it's red, but then next time I can dye it in a green,
in a new color.
In a new color. So
right.
I think that's also our perception of what we're so used to.
And maybe not being too attached to your suit being white or red, and being very okay with it to being a different color another time. So the whole concept maybe of wanting to own something, or getting too attached to it is maybe also something we need to change, or that's maybe something you're challenging with these ideas at least.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. I do realize like garments is not something that you are working on right now, but I think it was a very nice explanation of what living materials can produce. You are yourself working on a design project still, which is a big one, I think, for you, fungi. It's a super coating, so in that sense, it does relate to garments in a way, I guess. And funky it's not funky as in funky, but it's made of fungi. So it's spelled fungkee. Yeah. So there's a fun wordplay, but it also says something about what the basis of the material is. Do you wanna share maybe first your fascination with fungi, and then also how you came to wanting to make a super coating? Why? Yeah. Again, the why question.
The why question, true. Yeah, no, I think fungi, and I think a lot of listeners of your podcast are also big fungi fans. I think, to me, fungi are, for many industries, very, very interesting. First of all, of course, medicine for a long time, as long as civilization exists, especially in Asia, we discovered the superpowers of fungi for medical purposes, as well as for food, but they can also produce leather-like materials, insulation materials, alternatives for styrofoam, leathers, you name it. So I think there are many interesting ways of using fungi or mycelium, so the root-like network that is underground. I have worked with mycelium for quite some years until the moment I felt the urge to work on a coating, which is definitely not a sexy project if you are a designer.
But what is this urge then? Did it come from something in your personal life that you thought, I'm missing a coating, or the coatings that exist are too chemical?
Yeah, that. And also during my internship with Suzanne, when she was working with nanocellulose, she also told me, like, it's a beautiful material, but if we want to make it more sustainable over the long run, we need to protect it. UV is something that degrades every material, even our skin. You know, our skin tans with UV light, so we need to protect it from UV, from water, etc. And coatings, glue, and binders are the most complex to have 100% bio-based.
Right.
So, and also in my work and in my practice, I met lots of material innovators who struggle with the fact that they have a beautiful material that you can scale and that has interest from the building industry or the fashion industry or the interior industry, but they all require a high performance material. Then protection in many forms is required. And what I often heard is that, for example, investors told them, you can coat it with a PVC, so with a plastic, it's transparent, you don't see it, and we can scale it. We can easily sell it to a shoe brand, for example, and that's it. But then 100% beautiful bio-based material is not 100% bio-based anymore if you coat it. And this was a story that really resonated with me, that I thought, why the hell is there no coating
solution for that yet? Yeah.
Probably the DSMs and AkzoNobels on this world have them somewhere on a shelf. I can't imagine that they don't have, but it's not on the market yet. So I thought, maybe that's a project or something I have to dive into. And of course, I don't expect that me as a single designer can solve this whole issue, but I can maybe try and do an attempt.
Never say never. Like you have to keep ambitious. Yeah.
Yeah. So I signed up for the Bio Art and Design Award, which is an international award that's taking place in the Netherlands. It was started by Mu Hybrid Art House in Eindhoven. That was hosting the whole process. And the Bio Art and Design Award, hopefully it's coming back, was designed for designers and artists who were keen to work with a scientific institute on a project. So you can hand in a project proposal to the website. You had a list of participating institutes from the Netherlands, universities. So I signed up with an idea for a coating. Back then I wasn't still sure if I wanted to go into the fungal route or the plant route.
I see.
Because plants also have, protecting films, let's say. Well, long story short, I got through the rounds. There was a matchmaking session where I met two scientists from the Radboud University in Nijmegen. Basically, they were medical mycologists. So scientists that are looking into fungal diseases in patients. So not really the applied fungal field, let's say, but they were interested. They told me that fungi are not really popular in science because, for example, due to diseases like the Big Plague that is caused by a bacteria, there is way more interest in working with bacteria than fungi. So they said, we are glad to have a designer who sees the value of fungi.
I see.
Part of that prize, because we eventually applied together, we won one of the 3 prizes of 25,000 euros, which is not a lot in the field of science, but we started a 3-month trajectory and we had to end with an exhibition at MU that was there for at least half a year. It was a great adventure, and I'm still collaborating with one of the scientists, by the way.
Because you were then exhibiting, but how far in the process were you? Was there already something that you could show, or was it just a concept that you're then presenting? Which stage are we in right now?
The stage I am right now that I started again. But back then, we had some interesting fungi, but 3 months is way too short, especially for everyone that listens that have worked with microbes. Yeah, it goes slow. It's biology.
Yeah.
So what I decided then, okay, how do I make this into this research, super complex technical research into an appealing exhibition? Well, that was a kind of design shop where I showed people that we can grow garments in vats of liquid. We can dye it. We can protect it with a coating. There are even yeast that produce a beautiful kind of bouquet, like flowery smell. We can all create it. And I had 3 shelves filled with bottles with the funky super coating logo. So we designed also a brand for it that made a lot of people believe that it actually existed.
That it already was a thing, right? I see.
And I think that is, again, the power of design. I always like a little bit of humor. The same with the microbial vending machine. I like a little bit of humor and to speculate a little bit. So that really helped.
Well, and again, it makes sense because then people can actually imagining using it and having that in their hands. And then, if you make it more tangible, visible and tangible, then it becomes more real. So your speculation becomes their speculation as well.
Yeah. And after that, Corona came. So the whole project, because the idea was after the prize to continue with the researchers of the hospital. But everything stopped. Well, the world stopped turning. Last year, I decided to pick up the research again, because I must say it is not an easy project. The science is difficult. You're on a market with big players, but there's a large demand for it. So I did some market validation, and there is a large demand for it. So together now with Nick van Biezen, who is a biotechnologist and one of the tenants of Blue City Lab here in Rotterdam, I work with him on the revised idea of the funky supercoating.
I see.
And that started last year, June. We got 2 successful subsidies. We are together now. He's a scientist, I'm the designer, but I'm also in the lab because I love working in the lab and I love to understand how it works.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, because you have to know a lot about science yourself as well. I understand you always work with scientists, so you're never the specialist. But have you learned a lot in the process? You talk like a scientist sometimes already. Is this something that you also study for? Is this just learning by doing?
Learning by doing, because I'm terrible in mathematics. I always have been as a child. But I really do believe if you have an ambition to learn, you can master a science. And sometimes the scientist, Nick, has the urge to explain me how mathematics work.
And then you listen to him and you're like, yeah, it's very sweet that you try, but it's just not gonna.
No, it's working, but it takes some time. But I really find it important, especially because sometimes you read or see on websites work of designers that are just talking a little bit about it, about mycelium or about fungi, but to me, it feels very important to know the nitty-gritty of things, because the ambition with the funky supercoating is to really develop it and then eventually maybe sell the IP to a company that can then produce it on a larger scale. So it is something that I find important to entirely understand in order to both explain maybe investors in the future, but also other designers or other scientists, the importance of this research.
Yeah. And then say if you can upscale it and someone buys the IP from you so that they can actually produce it, then the idea is that it can be used in any industry. Are you very critical in that it can only be used then for bio-based products?
Well, ideally, for people who like camping or hiking, you probably protect your tent or sometimes your shoes with a spray. Ideally, it becomes something that can protect a lot of materials. I must say I have a lot of interest from the building industry, but for now we're focusing on flexible biomaterials. And of course, biomaterials is a big scope, but also biofabricated materials, because even materials that are made with mycelium leathers or packaging still need protection, because it really depends with what kind of mushroom you're working with. And what we often see with coatings or sprays, that materials become really brittle or stiff. So there is a larger demand from the flexible biomaterials market than from the stiff materials, let's say. But we have now 4 partners that are delivering materials to us to test on and to see how it works and operates. Because also the application of a coating, so our ambition is to make a transparent coating that includes the metabolites, so that are the little components in mushrooms that produce this layer, basically this hydrophobic layer. And that is something we still need to design, and that will take at least a year.
And then this layer is mostly to be water repellent and to protect it from daily wear and tear of a material.
Yes, and make sure that the material is still compostable at the end of life.
Okay, how do you see the next year going? What are the next steps?
Yeah, so the next steps are, so what we have done is we had, I think at least we grow 80 different types of fungal species in the lab.
That sounds like a lot.
That's a lot. It was a big zoo, let's say. And that is something we call bioprospecting. So we are looking at interesting mushrooms species and its mycelium that are interesting for their properties. So there's quite some literature around online about this topic that they call hydrophobins. So that is a specific metabolite. But we're not per se interested in hydrophobins, but more the little chains in the DNA that produce this. It's a kind of a matchmaking that we're doing. And from that selection of 80, we now have 12 types of species that we grow both. We grow both the fungi itself, so the fruiting bodies, and also aerial mycelium, so little sheets of mycelium on a liquid culture, so a liquid nutrients in the lab.
Meaning they grow in a different way than the others grow, so they have a different. They
grow basically in a square container on a liquid, and then we add the culture to it, and they grow little mats, little sheets on top. That is the process we're going to compare with, and the next stage is to basically. It sounds very easy, but it's not, is to evaporate these fungal superpowers from every species. And that is something we have to do in another lab. So
you're evaporating the fungal power. Why is that necessary?
So for everyone that knows, mycelium is white. And we don't want to have a white coating. But we would like to understand what types of superpower specific mushrooms have that make materials water repellent. There are, of course, lots of fungal species around. So we already made a selection out of the 80 back to 12.
And this, again, because you were talking about evaporating, and it needs, what is it then that you're trying to evaporate?
Yeah, that's this metabolite, basically this molecule that we need to capture by a specific process. But that is something super technical and still in development.
It sounds very technical, and you do sound like a scientist. And I'm also now thinking of some of the photos that you sometimes see of you online. It is you in a lab coat as well. Like there is a lot of it. A lot of it is is very much still science. So yeah, it's really funny to hear you now talk about something so scientific, but then still saying that you're not the scientist yourself. To me, that is quite funny.
I would never claim that.
But you do know already above average about the scientific side of what you're doing. But it makes sense, like you're saying, it's important to understand the whole process if you need to design for it as well. So I understand. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, do you want to share something else about the supercoating?
Well, follow us online.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I wanted to go to a slightly different topic, which is something I mentioned in my introduction, is that you see yourself as a connector, and I wanted to hear from you what makes you a connector. What is it that you're trying to connect? How do you see your role in this world of biodesign or of making an impact?
Yeah, I think if I go back to my studies, which is almost 15 years ago when I started in art school, I really had a difficult time, especially during my graduation, about the shifting role of the designer if you start to collaborate with science. And I really felt at that time, 2014, there was a new movement starting in the Netherlands that already started in the US. So the biodesign movement that basically already started in the 90s, but that's another story. Mm-hmm. After my returning back from London for my internship, I really saw a bright future. This is not speculation. Like we can produce products, materials, fabrics, everything 100% bio-based, but we need a platform for it.
And I think when you say we can produce it, I think the difference here is that with biomaterial, what you can actually do is you can grow it. So instead of finding resources that we're exhausting, like oil, for example, one that we all know very well, there is going to be an end at how much oil there is. But if you can grow a material, you can continuously grow it and you can keep using it. And then the idea is as well that it will be biodegradable, so it can return to the soil or to somewhere else where it came from. Just wanted to reiterate that I think that's an important word that you mentioned earlier, that this is something that's a material or resource that you grow.
Yeah, and especially lots of microbes love waste streams, so we can also grow, we can use waste streams to feed microbes in order to produce materials. So the closed loop system is also important, also with the coating, to see how we can produce it also in a clean tech way. No, but going back to my graduation project, I didn't really had any teacher back then who was really believing in this field. But I thought I've seen it from close by. So I'm gonna do my graduation project. It was called Form Follows Organism, the Biological Computer. And it was about an organism that is basically a super smart algorithm we can use in design. And I was really convinced that we as designers, we can collaborate and learn from algorithms from nature. That is not a new concept.
Can you help me? How does a slime mold stand for algorithm?
You know, the zeros and ones from a computer system algorithm. And this specific slime mold that you can see with the naked eye is a yellow blob. That's also how they call it. But these are all single-celled organisms that collaborate with each other as one organism, but they can't speak. So they have to navigate. And the superpower, let's say, of this slime mold is they can connect food points in the most efficient way in nature. And that is also something that we can mimic in a petri dish. And I was inspired by a Japanese professor who optimized the Tokyo rail network with the help of this slime mold. Also, computer systems in many cases are inspired on biological systems. Also, the Fibonacci sequence is also a natural phenomenon that's used in design, you know?
I think this real network is maybe a nice one, because I know this one as well, but to maybe try and explain how you visualize this. So this researcher puts in a few points on a map, let's put it that way, and then he puts the blob in, and then the blob basically finds the most efficient way of going from one point to the other.
Yeah, and the food in this case is oat flakes. So it likes oat flakes. And so Tokyo was a big oat flake, and all the suburbs around Tokyo also had oat flakes on it. So he put a petri dish over a map that visualized it. Of course, a slime mold can't see if it needs to build a bridge over a river, for example. But the interesting thing is that the cells collaborate and they explore. And once they have found the most ideal route to a void point, the other veins, because it really looks like veins, they disappear. And then you see one strong vein.
I see.
And so you should look it up if you don't know it. It's fascinating, and you can even do it in your own kitchen.
This is an invitation, I think.
This is an invitation. Also, my graduation work was published as a book.
You as a connector.
I really struggled. I almost didn't pass because they were really discussing if my graduation work was worth a product design diploma. Because product design back then was more about 3D objects,
right?
Like lamps, tables, chairs. Luckily, a lot of things have changed in a good way. But I was convinced that a methodology is also a product. I became a teacher as well because I thought every student that wants to go into this field of biodesign, I want to help out. Because
That's amazing.
I really wished them, not the teachers that don't believe in this. And no, it's not a trend, it's the way to go. There is no other route than this route. I was also invited to make an exhibition for the Floriade in the Netherlands. That was a collaboration between William Myers, who wrote the book Biodesign, and Next Nature, which was also a great project because I had a chance to invite the best designers from the Netherlands who work also on amazing projects. And that feels so rich to be connected to the people who have the same vision, the same ambition as you. So if I can put them on a stage or collaborate with them, I would love to do it. So connecting through exhibitions, but also via podcast or in the research that I'm doing for other people. I always try to include as many people from my network as I can because, yeah, it's important.
I actually thought of it maybe in a slightly different way, even if I was looking at all the things that you're doing, is if you look at the services that you offer that we spoke about in the beginning of this conversation, is that you are also a researcher for organizations. Sometimes you give advice, you work together with scientists, but then you also work with artists and designers. So there's a lot of different types of people and sectors, I think, that you collaborate with. And then you are basically a little bit in the middle to then see what can we do together and how can we make this into something that is actually making an impact or that is something tangible to push it a bit further.
No, definitely. And I think especially in the building industry and building materials, there's a lot of attention now in the Netherlands, but we also need the bright minds and creative minds in companies to help to create impact. So what I also see in the past years is that also some of my old classmates ended up in big consultancy firms as a designer because they need a creative mindset and the rethinking of systems. And I think that's something that we as creative, we can definitely do to help and shape and redesign current systems.
I wanted to bridge to another project that you're working on because I think you're very passionate about it. And this is something you've been invited to do for a Next Nature Museum. And I want to give a bit of attention to that if you want to share something about it. So you were invited to have is it a permanent installation in the museum?
Yes. Yeah. So Next Nature is an organization that took over the amazing Evoluon building in Eindhoven that was built in the 60s. It's a spaceship Earth, as they call it. It has a UFO shape. It's amazing. And Next Nature is an organization that thinks about next futures, and they do that also with the network fellows, as they call them. with different backgrounds. So from science to philosophers to artists to designers. And for their new museum, which they are developing in this spaceship, they asked me if I wanted to create a permanent artwork, which is of course an amazing opportunity. And so I had an idea, and that is called the living room.
And then living is meant to be read in a double
Yes.
way, of course, because it will be alive as well.
Yeah, it's actually a living concept in collaboration with Next Stage here, and it will be a functional house, a living room that integrates nature in our daily lives. And of course, everyone, I think, most of the people have a plant or maybe a pet in home that we take care of and we nurture it. If we look at the interior objects that we have in our homes, like our chairs, tables, lamps, etc., we don't really have a relationship with them. And I felt the same with the microbial vending machine. Like, we have a lot of materials and processes that can create 100% bio-based worlds, including our homes. So my ambition is with the living room is to create this one-to-one, approximately, I think, 60 square meter house with the rooms we all know of, like the kitchen, but maybe the kitchen is not a place where we cook food, but where we process waste streams and feed it to our lamp that therefore generates energy.
Wait, can you say that again? Because I think you shouldn't go too fast.
Okay, good.
So you grow things in the kitchen, and then, or no, there's waste streams in the kitchen, and then you can feed them to your lamp. Like, we need to pause there for a minute. What could that look like? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a living room and kitchen, or sometimes it's combined. We have a bathroom and we have a bedroom. In the concept of the living room, everything is alive. So the kitchen is maybe not only the place where we cook, process our waste streams that we produce. For this living room, I'm also collaborating with approximately 10 Dutch biodesigners that are working with me to develop objects in the living room. Let's say is a lamp that you can feed with waste streams and therefore produces light. So there are specific microbes. I can't explain too much right now to spoil it.
So it's not like you're feeding the lamp so the lamp continues to grow, but to actually have the lamp functioning as a lamp, you're using a certain stream. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually the idea for the living room started by walking through an IKEA. When you walk to IKEA, of course, you have the showroom, you have all these demi or mini houses that they, of course, show there. And then if you decided to buy something, you go to the storage and then you can take it from the shelf. And I thought, what if we can buy a chair that is grown by a specific bone structure, for example, that you can buy in miniature, let's say 10 centimeters high in a mini incubator. You buy it, you take it home, and you grow it. And after a year, it's maybe 50 centimeters high, and you can use it for your child. But the chair is growing with you, or maybe the couch is growing with you. So what if you feed your couch and then becomes a 3-seater after a couple of years? So it's really about reciprocal relationships we have with objects, where for a plant or a pet we take care of, but not for our home objects.
And then also understanding what it needs to grow, so that it needs attention and it needs care if you want it to grow. If you don't give it attention, I think this is even an IKEA phrase that nothing grows without attention or something like that.
No, that's true. And actually, the wish is that the visitors of the Next Nature Museum will also become caretakers of the objects. So there is a wish and desire that's still in development to monitor the objects that are, some of them are alive, to see how people treat them. So if your couch would be from alive moss and mycelium, would you sit on it or would you hug it maybe? So what kind of relationships do we build up with our objects? So there's also this perspective that scientists are interested in, especially in the field of biodesign. What can we learn? Can we monitor how organisms are doing?
Interesting. And also then our social behavior towards it is going to be important, right? Because what does it take for us to be okay with sitting or hugging mycelium?
Yeah. No, no, for sure. And also, yeah, I talked about a couch, but also a dinner set, lamps. But we also think about the functions in a house. So I was talking about the garden, and I was talking about the little sheds because not everyone has a shed, but sometimes people have a shed where you fix. I also have a shed where I fix things. But what will the shed of the future will look like if our house is 100% bio-based? So we're also rethinking the functions of the rooms in the living room.
This is also rethinking a system in a way, our living system.
Yeah. And the house will also grow because what I also see now with the microbial vending machine is that after 6 years, some of the objects in the vending machine are a little bit outdated. So the living room will also be designed that maybe in 3 to 5 years, some objects will biodegrade and will make room for new objects. So the idea is also to design a kind of map on the floor, like a doll house. You know, if you fold out a doll house, you see a kind of floor map where, oh, this is where the couch needs to be, this is where the bed needs to be. It's also kind of designed like a doll house that can grow, but then on a one-to-one scale.
Amazing. I can't wait to see it, but I think we have to wait a little while, right? This is not until 2027, I believe, or
Yeah, next year, Q3.
okay. So that'll be a very busy year for you to make this happen.
Yeah, I'm actually working on it for 1.5 years already. So
A big review then.
yeah, it's I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm really excited again in my collector role is that I can work with amazing designers and people in the Netherlands who are in many cases designing something very new that is of course that fits in their practice because the objects that they design will of course be their property. So that is also an interesting exercise for the museum. Like if you usually a museum acquires a piece, pays for it, and then it's owned by the museum. But how does it work if something is alive and needs to be maintained over over the course of several years? So that's also an interesting thought and exercise experiment for the museum.
Yeah, and parts of it might degrade. They might disappear. So you invest in something that is going to be gone at some point. And you're challenging so many people here.
Yeah, it's really a huge passion project and really grateful for this opportunity. So
I want to ask you, because this is something we always do at the end of our episode, is that we ask our guests to give us a souvenir from this conversation. So this can be either a book that you've read or a designer we should look into, but it could also be something we do. Is there something that you do in your daily life that you wish for us to do or to take with us?
Never lose your curiosity, I think. Curiosity is a kind of exercise I do every day. Is at the end of the day, I think about what I've done, like a little meditation maybe, but also what I've learned. And it's not always about learning something new, but maybe a person who told you something that sparked your mind. And I've read in a research about Alzheimer, actually, the Alzheimer disease, is that it's good, especially for women, to be aware of new things you've learned. But besides that research, I always think it's sometimes very grateful. I'm very grateful for a scientist who told me something new, even though it's mathematics. Or I learn about that eating chicory is super good for our health. So I want to challenge everyone who's listening to think about what they've learned or inspired, or how they got inspired every day in their lives. Because I really think that if you are inspired, you want to research it or learn more about it. And that's also good for our mental health. It doesn't have to be scientific though. Sometimes I walk through the park or I'm in Blue City and I see something and that sparks my mind and then I think, oh, I want to learn more about it. And also with this vending machine that started also at the train station, passing a vending machine where you think, this might be interesting.
It's curiosity and inspiration, I hear, for you to do a new thing, maybe.
Yeah. And that could be something very small. Like sometimes I think about if I didn't visit this Boymans Museum back in 2010 with this exhibition, how would my practice look like? Places I visit, the people I meet, the things I read sometimes, that gives us direction in our practices and our lives. So be open for it.
Wonderful. I think that's a beautiful souvenir. Thank you so much for sharing all this. Again, there's so much more that you do, but I recommend that people go to your website and follow you on all your endeavors and all your personal projects, but also the projects that you do with and for others. Thank you so much for sharing everything.
Thank you so much, Daphne. I'm grateful to learn the person behind this great podcast and to be part of it. So thank you so much for doing this work. And I'm looking forward to the next episodes as well.
Me too. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks very much. Thank you for listening to The Art of Coexistence, a podcast produced by our Celium publishers. Editing by Axel Fruman, music by Mark Omen, and hosted by me, Daphne Fruman. Find us on your favorite podcast app and give us a follow, like, subscribe, and/or share, and we'll see you again soon.